What's going on, y'all? This is Derek J407 here to give you my thoughts on WWE Clash of Champions 2019, the one night a year where every championship in the company is one, remembered that they exist, and two, defended. Although not really, since the 24/7 title technically wasn't defended, I guess briefly, but other than that, every championship on the main roster at least was defended on the show in some way, shape, or form. The show took place in Charlotte, North Carolina, the hometown of at least two people who competed on the show, Cedric Alexander and Charlotte Flair. So I guess that's already a spoiler as to the outcomes of their matches. From the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, of course. A show that from top to bottom was okay. I can't really say it was great. It was far from being one of the best shows of the year. It was just okay. There were some good matches. On the kickoff, there was a really great triple threat for the Cruiserweight title. Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks had a great match. With the finish, that's probably a bit polarizing. My feelings on it are complicated, but I'll get to that. And the last couple of matches were good for what they were, which I'll probably get into when I talk about them. The WWE title match, Erick Rowan and Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins in the main event. And of course, the appearance of the Fiend at the end of the show, laying out the Universal Champion and establishing himself, I should say, as the next in line for that championship. So let's go ahead and start from the very beginning. Like I mentioned, the kickoff show had one of the best matches of the night, which was a triple threat match for the Cruiserweight Championship. The champion, Drew Gulak, defending against Lince Dorado, the lone member of the Lucha House Party, to get a championship match here. And Humberto Carrillo, I think that's how you pronounce his name. So these guys went out there and just had a kick-ass match. All three of them delivered. Humberto, who I'm not fully familiar with, I don't watch enough 205 Live to be completely familiar with him, but I know he's great. Lince Dorado, when he and the rest of the Lucha House Party aren't, walking around as walking stereotypes, carrying piñatas and all that kind of stuff, he along with the other three, are really good. He's probably one of the more underrated men of the trio, but he's really good. So he delivered some impressive things in this match. And of course, Drew Gulak, he's a straight shooter type of guy, so that played a role in this match too. So all three guys delivered, and it was Gulak who came away with the victory. He stole the win from Humberto, so Gulak still Cruiserweight champion, and I assume a proper feud between him and Humberto Carrillo will probably take place in the future. And then the next match on the kickoff was for the United States Championship. Hometown boy Cedric Alexander challenging AJ Styles, former WWE champion who held that title for over 365 days. I think it was like 371 straight days. AJ Styles was WWE champion, and here he is a year later wrestling on the kickoff show of Clash of Champions. But you know what? I'm like, we've had really great kickoff matches before. I'm sure this will be a really good one. And it started off hot. The bell rang, and Cedric immediately went for a Michinoku driver and hit a big dive onto the outside on AJ. But it was pretty much all downhill from there, because a little bit later on the outside, AJ took out Cedric and hit him with a Styles Clash on the outside. He put him back in the ring. He went for the cover, but when the referee was about to hit 3 because the match was over, AJ pulled his shoulders off the mat to say, "Oh, I'm not done with him," and he was not. Cedric had a few other hope spots in there, but it was pretty much all AJ. AJ hit him with the phenomenal forearm, then hit him with another Styles Clash to get the win. And after the match, the rest of the OC, Gallows and Anderson, they came back out. AJ sent them to the back at the start of the match because he clearly did not need them. So he invited them back out. They all beat down Cedric, and the OC stood tall. It was a pretty decisive victory over Cedric Alexander. thought he'd look a little more competitive than this. I don't know if it was a matter of them having their time cut short. They were on the pre-show, and their match went on at like 6:45, 6:50 or something like that, so you could tell it was pretty short. I don't know how on a show like this, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose get on the main pay-per-view, meanwhile AJ Styles is reduced to the kickoff, but whatever. Honestly, I have no desire to see Cedric challenge for the championship again because he pretty much lost in decisive fashion, so that was that. Now on to the main show. We open things up, as predictably so, with the Raw Tag Team titles. Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler challenging the Tag Team Champions Braun Strowman and also Universal Champion Seth Rollins. Of course, the two men were set to face each other in the main event for the Universal title, but they were also Tag Team Champions, which meant they had to defend their Tag Team titles here against Roode and Ziggler. It was predictable that it would open the show, and the finish was pretty predictable. The match itself, pretty mundane, average stuff. You know, Braun was a monster, but whenever Seth was in there, he would get double teamed by the heels. And there was a hot tag to Braun. I think there was a hot tag to Seth. So nothing really out of the ordinary. So the finish saw Braun. Actually, it was Bobby Roode, or Robert Roode, whatever you want to call him. He was setting up for the glorious DDT on Seth Rollins, when out of nowhere, Braun Strowman comes in, bum rushes Roode, hits him with a shoulder tackle, but in doing so, when he shoulder tackled Roode collided into Seth Rollins, so that inadvertently took out Seth Rollins, so Rollins is down. Dolph gets Braun out of the ring, kind of sidesteps him, Braun collapses over the rope, out of the ring. Seth gets Dolph out of the ring, and then Seth turns around, walks right into a glorious DDT from Bobby Roode to get the 1-2-3, and we have new Raw Tag Team Champions in Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. So, just the obvious finish here, that two guys who were just thrown together as a random makeshift tag team a few weeks ago in a gauntlet match. They won that, became the number one contenders, challenged two feuding tag team partners for their titles, and won. Very predictable. Anyone could have seen it coming. And like I said, the match itself wasn't really all that special, but we have new tag team champions, so I don't know where they're going with Roode and Ziggler. You know, Ziggler's a lost cause, so we'll see what this does for Roode. Apparently Paul Heyman is a big fan of him behind the scenes, so we'll see if that kind of helps him out a little bit. We'll see where this goes. Maybe this will be like Ziggler and Drew McIntyre from last year, where the idea is that it benefits Drew and Dolph kind of helps him out. Maybe this is Dolph helping out Roode here. I don't know. We'll see. Next matchup, another hometown favorite challenging for a championship. This time it's Charlotte Flair challenging the newly turned heel Bayley, although she still, has the wacky and inflatable arm flailing tube man, and she presents herself as a role model, and she still has that same bubbly upbeat music, but she is a heel, no doubt, and she was treated as a heel in front of this crowd, obviously, with Charlotte out there. And the match started, and Charlotte was basically kicking Bayley's ass throughout the entire thing. This was not much of a match. This was a beatdown. Bayley was, playing the chicken shit heel. She was running away from Charlotte. It was very weird seeing the dynamic shift between these two with a heel Bayley versus a babyface Charlotte. That's weird. Now, Charlotte's not necessarily a babyface in front of this crowd. She is, but I don't know if going forward she'll be positioned more as a babyface, but who knows. But in this case, Bayley was the clear heel in this scenario, and she was running away from Charlotte and trying to duck and dodge, but Charlotte, at every turn, just started beating her down. She was throwing her all around ringside, into the security walls, and all that kind of stuff. But it was in the end, Charlotte had Bayley in the ring. She was beating her down in the corner, and the referee kind of pushed Charlotte away to the side, and Bayley came out of camera view. She was out of the ref's point of view, and she was out of camera view. And so when Charlotte goes back over to Bayley and goes right at her, Bayley kind of sidesteps her or shoves her face first into what turned out to be an exposed bottom turnbuckle. So she went face first into the steel. Bayley rolled her up, and got the win. And once she won, she bolted out of there. She got her championship, and she ran right up that ramp and ran right out of the arena, and that was the last we saw of her. So, obviously, behind the ref's back and out of the camera's vision, Bayley undid the bottom turnbuckle. So, I guess that's another lesson for all the little girls to learn from their role model, Bayley, that you gotta win at all costs. You can't let the bully win. And in her eyes, Charlotte is the bully, and she's the role model. So as a role model, you have to do whatever you can to defeat the bully at any cost, and that's what she did here. So I assume this feud is going to continue. I would be stunned if this was the end of it. So we'll see where they go from here. Up next, the SmackDown Tag Team titles were on the line. The New Day, Big E, and Xavier Woods defending against Raw's The Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. Of course, Dash and Dawson have been hooked up with Randy Orton for the past few weeks, helping him take out all the members of the New Day. They injured Xavier Woods' knee. They basically Pillmanized it. So they've been a really dominant trio these past few weeks, and I really dug it. And I didn't know who all was walking out as champions from this show, but I had a feeling that the Revival might, which I did not like. But it's basically what happened. Woods and Big E tried to take them out early on and be really aggressive. They showed a more aggressive side of themselves, but it was not enough. Eventually, Woods got taken out with his knee, and it was 2-on-1 against Big E. He was getting beat down. He made a little quick comeback, and then eventually got the hot tag to Xavier Woods, but even that was not enough to last long. Big E was trying to fight both guys off at one point. Woods is down in the middle of the ring, and on the outside, Big E went after both of them. They tried to shove Big E into the steel post, but he blocked it, so he braced himself, and then when he turned right back around, he got hit with the shatter machine on the outside, so that looked pretty brutal. And back in the ring, they're targeting and zoning in on Xavier Woods. He's trying to fight back the best he can, but they hit him with the shatter machine, and instead of going for the cover, they set him up for what was basically a reverse Indian deathlock, and have just cranking on his knee in this hold, and eventually Woods tapped out, and that was it. So the Revival are the first ever Grand Slam Tag Team Champions, being the first teams to win the Raw, SmackDown, and NXT Tag Team titles. And they cut a promo after the match, giving their support to Randy Orton and all that kind of stuff, which look what good that did. But yeah, and like I said, I didn't like it only because these are Raw superstars winning a SmackDown championship. Now, when SmackDown goes to Fox and they do that show the next week where they're doing the draft, maybe they'll get drafted over to SmackDown. I sure as hell hope they do. I sure as hell hope the SmackDown Tag Team Champions get drafted to SmackDown. That would be nice. The sooner this wild card shit ends, the better, honestly. But a decent match with, in my eyes, a pretty obvious finish. But yeah, that was that. Up next, another tag team title match. This was the women's tag team title match. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss defending against Fire and Desire, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. To show you how important this match was interrupted by all the jobbers in the back running after R-Truth for his 24/7 championship. Right out at ringside, right into the middle of the ring. Truth was in the ring, and Alexa Bliss, she tried. I'll give her credit. She tried to win the title. She rolled up Truth and only got a 2 count, and then Truth managed to escape out of the arena, and that was the end of that. And that provided enough distraction for Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville to take advantage and take control over Alexa and Nikki. One of the stories going into this match was Mandy Rose talking about how ugly Nikki Cross is and how beautiful she is, which is true, although I find Nikki Cross to be very attractive in her own right. But of course, Mandy Rose is ungodly gorgeous. But it's cheap heat that honestly doesn't mean much to me. And that was the story going into this match, and it really didn't play much of a role other than Nikki Cross kind of like mocking Mandy, doing her like some kind of sexy dance type thing, like kind of Mandy does the poses and all that kind of stuff. in this kind of sultry, seductive way. Nikki Cross tried her own version of that, which was mildly amusing. But the finish came where Nikki Cross, she saved Alexa Bliss. I think Alexa was down. She almost got beat. I think they, Sonya and Mandy hit the high-low on Alexa, and she was almost done for, but then Nikki Cross got in and broke the count. So Alexa managed to tag in Nikki. She knocked Sonya Deville off the apron and got Mandy Rose up on the top rope and hit her with a spinning, draping neck breaker and got the pin. So Nikki Cross gets the win for her team. I wonder if that's something kind of a small, subtle thing here of showing that, yeah, they're winning these matches because of Nikki Cross. Now, Alexa wins these matches too. She wins with Twisted Bliss, so I don't know if that'll play a big role anytime soon, but it's something to keep in mind, I would say. Then, up next, Intercontinental Championship match. Shinsuke Nakamura with his new advisor, translator, manager, whatever, Sami Zayn, who just became allergic to winning to the point where he had to become a manager for Shinsuke Nakamura, defended the title against The Miz. And Sami Zayn, rather, he had a neck brace on because the previous week on SmackDown in Madison Square Garden, The Undertaker came out and chokeslammed him, so he was selling that. And Sami Zayn had a mic, so for the first few seconds of the match, he was on the mic, mocking The Miz, calling him soft style and all this kind of stuff. And eventually his mic got cut off, and then a little bit later on the outside, Miz took his microphone and threw it all the way up the entrance way, all the way up onto the stage. So that was funny enough, I guess. What can I say? It was nothing impressive. Nakamura, he's great. Miz can be good. I still don't know why the hell the Miz is still using Daniel Bryan's moves. Can he please stop? The feud has been over for months. It was a bust. And Miz is a babyface. Move on. Use other moves. Please stop. I don't know what more I can say about that. So Nakamura, he went for the Kinshasa. Miz, he reversed it, got out of dodge, hit him with the skull-crushing finale. It looked like it was over, but then Sami Zayn got up on the apron, distracted the referee. Miz chased Sami Zayn around ringside, and when he got to a point where Nakamura was back in his sights, Nakamura kind of shoved him face first into the steel post, got him back in the ring, hit him with the Kinshasa, and got the win. So Nakamura still the Intercontinental Champion, and yeah, I don't care about The Miz anymore, so I'm glad they kept the championship right where it belongs with Nakamura and this new little pairing with him and Sami Zayn. We'll see where that goes, but yeah, that was the right call. I mentioned the draft. They announced that. They made that official. They announced it on Twitter earlier in the day, but they announced it here. Said the draft will take place on SmackDown on Friday night on October 11th, and again on Raw on Monday, October 14th. And Michael Cole stressed that this will cause superstars to be brand exclusive, which means the death of the stupid-ass wild card rule. Thank you. That's all I can say, is thank you. Then we get to what was probably the best match of the night, at least for me. Sasha Banks challenging Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. I thought these two put on a really good match. It benefited from, turning into a huge brawl at the end, or at least that's what we thought was the end of the match, but the match had already ended by that point. We'll get into that. So the match itself was pretty basic. Both women hit each other with their submissions and all that kind of stuff. Sasha locked in the bank statement, and Becky managed to escape. Becky locked in the disarm her. It looked like Sasha was going to tap, but she also managed to escape. Sasha hit the Meteora at one point. Again, only good for a 2 count. Both men were really catty and bitchy at one another. Becky slapping her and all that kind of stuff. Really good stuff. And the crowd was into it. They loved Becky. Sasha was getting some mild cheers, but it was mostly a lot of heat. The crowd was firmly behind Becky Lynch. And things took a turn when a chair was introduced. A chair was introduced by Sasha. She tossed a chair into the ring, and the referee quickly took it out. But in doing so, he had his back turned, so Sasha got another chair and kind of lodged it in Becky's gut or something like that. And she hit Becky with the Shining Wizard, and I honestly thought that was going to be it. I thought that was going to be it, but it was only good for a 2 count, so Becky kicked out. Sasha threw a tantrum. She was upset. She got another chair, and this time when she, held back and went to go use it, the referee snatched it out of her hand. I think he tossed it to the side, or Sasha tossed it to the side. One of them tossed it to the side. So it's down. Sasha's going back and forth with the referee. Now Becky Lynch has the chair, and she's going to use it against Sasha, but then she moves, and then Becky lightly taps the shoulder of the referee with the chair. I say that because this did not look like it had any force behind it whatsoever, but the referee immediately went down instead of brushing it off and feigning mild annoyance at being swatted with a chair, but he treated it like it was death, and he proceeded to be laid out unconscious while these 2 women proceeded to brawl all around the arena, all in the crowd, all the way up the stands, all the way up in the concessions area, the concourse. At one point, I don't know what happened to cause it, but Sasha had mustard on her back. I have no idea how that happened, but it did. So the 2 were brawling all around ringside, and it's like the crowd's going nuts for it. Talking about how much pandemonium it is, how insane it is, and all that kind of stuff. And then they get back towards ringside, and then at this point, the announcers just casually mention, "Oh yeah, the match is over." The match ended when Becky used that weak chair shot on the referee. That ended the match. That caused a disqualification. Becky was disqualified, therefore Sasha won, but Becky retained her title. The match was over. We heard no bell. No one came out to tell us. Nothing like that. The match was over. Now, after Becky was beating the hell out of Sasha with a chair, after the 2 women fought all around the arena, and then finally came back to the ring, that's when the referees and other officials and all that kind of stuff came back out to stop the beat down. Becky was beating the hell out of Sasha with the chair, and they kicked her out. Then that's when the ring announcer said the match was over, it ended on disqualification, blah blah blah. And that's when the fans booed, because they were expecting the match to continue, because they were none the wiser. Although one could say it was very beneficial that they didn't tell them before, they didn't ring the bell before, because then this whole brawl probably would have been crapped on or would have been booed. And I guess they didn't want that, so give them the illusion that the match is still continuing until the segment is basically over. And that way they can chant bullshit and all that kind of stuff as we're fading to black and going into the next segment, which is basically what happened. I don't know if they chanted bullshit, but that's basically what happened. So this feud is obviously not over, which I didn't expect it to be, but I did think it would probably have been better had Sasha won here. Like, I do feel like she'll win eventually, but I think start the feud off strong, let Sasha win right out the gate, and let Becky chase her from now on. This could have been the finish to the next month's pay-per-view or something like that, or a big Raw show or something. But I guess this could potentially set up a Hell in a Cell match between Becky and Sasha. That I'd be interested in that. I feel like of the feuds going on right now, this is probably the one that would make sense to take place inside Hell in a Cell. So if that's what they wanted to do, I'm all for it. And I say put him on the main event. Although the idea of the Fiend winning the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell, despite the feud not needing to take place inside Hell in a Cell, but the thought of the Fiend ending the show with the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell does sound intriguing, but I don't care. I like the match. The finish, I thought, could have been handled better, but overall, it was a really good match for me. Up next, Kofi Kingston defending the WWE Championship against Randy Orton in what appears to be the end of this feud. This feud has been predicated on the fact that Kofi Kingston is stupid, and he has fallen for every single trap Randy Orton has laid for him, and has pretty much been laid out at every turn, except for the previous week on SmackDown when they recreated the boom drop spot in Madison Square Garden. But other than that, Kofi's been pretty stupid throughout this entire feud. So he had to go in this match looking pretty strong, and for the most part he did. The match itself was good. It was a lot better than their SummerSlam match, which I really didn't like all that much. But this one was a lot better. Randy seemed to be a little bit more motivated. There was some chops early on that looked pretty stiff. It looked like it kind of, connected a little too well with Randy, and he was kind of reacting to that. He was reacting to a lot of different things in this match. I don't know if that was real stuff. I don't know if he was just selling. I don't know what it was, but it was kind of Randy being a little bit more on edge and a little bit more aggressive. Some of the things he did looked like it was a little more painful and digging into Kofi. So Randy was the star of this match. He, of course, did his back suplexes on Kofi on the announce table. I think he hit 2 of them. I think he was going for a third one, but it got stopped. But I'm pretty sure he hit 2. Just fast forwarding a little bit here, like nothing overly special about this match. But they're in the ring. Randy hits an RKO out of nowhere. I forgot what was the setup, but we get an RKO out of nowhere, and Kofi gets his foot on the rope to break the cover. So he didn't kick out like I was kind of hoping he would, because I went into this match thinking that Kofi would retain, and a good spot would be him kicking out of the RKO, but I guess this is the next best thing. So he got his foot on the rope, so he prevented that. Randy's frustrated, so he goes to his old tried and true, and that would be the punt. So he winds back. He backs up into the other corner, not previous corner. I don't know why I said that. He backs up into the other corner, lunges at Kofi going for the punt, and Kofi quickly gets out of the way, does his little reversal, and ends up hitting the Trouble in Paradise on Randy Orton to get the clean victory to retain the WWE Championship. A year ago, I never would have expected Kofi Kingston to become WWE Champion. And now, here we are in the year 2019. This dude won the title at WrestleMania, and it is September. It is the middle of September, almost October, with SmackDown heading over onto Fox, and Kofi Kingston is still the WWE Champion. I did not see that coming. So, good for him, getting a really long, lengthy run with the championship, I assume, because once he loses it, it's over, and he's never winning that belt again. But, yeah, good for him. I figured Randy could have won, but it was better that he didn't. So, good for Kofi. And a good match. Nothing excellent, but a really good match here. I saw some people didn't like it all that much, but I guess different strokes. The Street Profits were backstage. I don't care. Their work in NXT is superior, and this stuff they do on Raw is just cringe-inducing. They have go-away heat with me. These guys do on Monday Night Raw and in these backstage segments they do on the main roster. But King Booker was there and he said catchphrase, I don't care. Up next, Roman Reigns versus Erick Rowan. No disqualification match. It was Erick Rowan all along. He was the one who tried to murder Roman Reigns. At least that's what we're led to believe for right now. And he was revealed to be the big culprit. And he was the one who got the big pay-per-view match against Roman Reigns on this show. So, yeah. A lame reveal. This whole storyline has just sucked. It was somewhat intriguing in the beginning, but every turn they've had since, it just sucked. And now the big payoff is that Erick Rowan? Really? So, this match had to really make Rowan look like a dominant monster, and it pretty much did that. He beat the hell out of Roman Reigns in this match. Roman got his in too, but Erick Rowan was just manhandling him, tossing him all around. He put him through the announce table at one point. He gave him a powerbomb. I think he reversed a Superman punch and powerbombed him through the announce table. Looked brutal. The two men fought into the crowd and then over by the tech area. Rowan hit a iron claw slam on Roman and put him through a table over there. He got him up on the stage. He was going to use a jib camera. He used it on the previous week's SmackDown and took out Roman, so he's going for that. But Roman picked up some piece of equipment. I don't know if it was from the cameras. I don't know what it was. It was some long piece of equipment. He used it on Rowan. He hit him in the side with it. And then he took the jib camera and hit Rowan with it. Hits Rowan with the Superman punch. Rowan kind of tumbles down the rampway. So Roman's still on the stage, and Rowan is back by ringside. So Roman rushes down the ramp, going for a spear, when out of nowhere, some big dude hits him with a big boot. And this dude turns out to be Luke Harper. He's alive, apparently. So Luke Harper lays out Roman, gets him back in the ring. Rowan throws Roman into a discus clothesline, and then Rowan hits the Iron Claw on Roman and gets the win. So Erick Rowan pins Roman Reigns on pay-per-view thanks to Luke Harper. I don't know if this means Luke Harper was in cahoots with Erick Rowan this entire time. I don't know if he was the mastermind. It looks like Erick Rowan's supposed to be the mastermind here. I have no idea if Daniel Bryan is still supposed to be a part of this. I don't know. Maybe this will set up Harper and Rowan against Bryan and Roman, and then in that match, Roman gets screwed again, and it's revealed that Bryan was involved all along. I have no idea, but the quicker this feud ends, the better. Although I am very happy to see Luke Harper back on television. And for the record, this was the best Erick Rowan match I've ever seen. That's not saying much, but this was the best singles match I've ever seen this man have. This was the performance of his life. Roman made him look like a monster in this match, so I don't know how much longer it's going to last for him, but at least on this night, he looked like a pretty big beast, so there you go. And then finally, we get to the main event, Universal Championship match, Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins. Right away, Strowman went after Seth, did the shoulder slam and all that kind of, or the shoulder tackle and stuff, but Seth went right back at him, went for the knees. He hit Braun with 3 super kicks, then a frog splash, and Braun didn't even kick out at 1. He kicked out before the referee even went down to do the cover. To do the count, Braun kicked out. So that was really impressive. Then Braun regained control. He started manhandling Seth and all that kind of stuff. At one point, he was over on the outside, and Seth sidestepped Braun, and Braun ended up crashing over the German announce table. So he was down. Seth gets back in the ring. He goes for a dive. Goes back in the ring, hits another dive, and this dive had enough force behind it that Braun, his weight collapsed the table that he was on. I think it was the American announce table. I don't know what table it was, but I think it was probably still the German announce table. But the table collapsed under his weight, so he basically went through the table. Strowman was up top. Seth was about to go for his superplex into a Falcon Arrow thing. He clearly could not get Braun up for a superplex off the top, so Braun swats him off. He's up on the top turnbuckle. He looks like he was fumbling around a little bit, like he's about to lose his balance, but he regained his composure and hit a pretty good slam on Seth, but it was only good for a 2 count. Seth, back up, hits Braun with a stomp, only good for a 1 count. Braun kicks out at 1. Seth looks stunned, gets back up, hits him with a second stomp, only good for a 2 count. Hits him with a third stomp, and again, it's only good for a 2 count. So the place is going crazy. By this point, they're more into Braun than they are Seth. Seth's getting booed, and Braun has the people behind him because they kind of want to see him win at this point. So Seth gears back up, goes for the stomp. Braun gets up, gets him in position to hit a power slam, but Seth slips out of it, hits Braun with a pedigree, and a pretty ugly looking one too. I thought we were done with the ugly looking Seth Rollins pedigrees, but here we are. So he hits him with a poor pedigree, then hits him with another stomp, and that's enough. Braun Strowman once again loses in a big time championship match, and Seth Rollins is still the Universal Champion. Meanwhile, Braun leaves the show empty-handed, lost his tag team titles earlier in the night, and then lost here in another big main event championship match. So I'm convinced this man is never winning a championship, and if he does, he will hold it for a very brief amount of time. I said a long time ago that Braun Strowman will be this generation's version of Kane or the Big Show. If you need a big, intimidating monster, he can be that. Eventually, I'm sure he'll do comedy shit. He hasn't fully done comedy stuff yet, although the stuff with the SNL guys and the Battle Royal this year, I guess, counts. Otherwise, he's just going to be there. He's the big, brooding monster that's going to be there whenever, for whatever role you need him in, and he'll pretty much never be anything beyond that. And the day he does win the championship, will it even matter? Every time he's challenged for a title, so far, he's failed. Whether he outright lost, got screwed, whatever, he's failed every single time. Who could possibly care? So, that's it for Braun. See you bye. Seth poses with the championship on the stage. The commentators are signing off, and you know it's not over. The lights go out, they come back on, and we see the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. He lays out Seth with Sister Abigail. Lights go back out, they come back on. Bray is still not done, and he locks Seth in the mandible claw, and the show ends with Bray standing tall over Seth Rollins, laughing maniacally. Lights go out, and we hear the Fiend's cackle on repeat, which I thought was a pretty cool way to end the show. So, all guns a-blazing, all speed ahead to Seth Rollins versus the Fiend for the Universal Championship. A lot of mixed reactions on this match. Some people say it's too soon. Some people say, why rush this? Why do this only for Bray to lose and all that kind of stuff? I'm perfectly fine with this. I love Bray Wyatt challenging for any championship right now. Let him go right after the Universal Championship. I am 100% on board, provided he wins. You can't do this match for Bray to lose. He has to win. Bray has to win the Universal Championship at Hell in a Cell next month. He can't go in there and lose. He has to win. Any other outcome, and you stall this guy's momentum again. And you somehow manage to fuck up this guy's character again. So he has to win. And let him run with the championship for the next few months. Hell, let him run into WrestleMania with the title. I have no problem with that. Seth, as champion, has done nothing for me right now. Bray's one of the hottest acts in the entire company. Let him run with the title for as many months as you want him to. So I'm all for that. So that was the end of the show. That was the show in a nutshell. Overall, like I said, okay, nothing overly great. I loved the ending. Sasha and Becky had a really good match. So, good stuff overall, just nothing overly special. So, I guess that's about it. So, I'll check y'all later.